Lori? Yeah, good. Check one, check one. Okay. So welcome to the special meeting of the Kingston Police Services Board, meeting 2316, held December 18th, 2023. For those who are here, we had some technical difficulties, so per se the budget is not going to be on the main screen. Sorry. We tried. So I'm going to ask if there's a disclosure of conflict of interest. No? Can I get an approval of the agenda for this morning? Very good. All in favor? Thank you. And then there's the recommendation report. I'm going to hand this over to Scarlett, and if you can present, or sorry, Liam. Okay.
Certainly much appreciated. And so what we're going to do today is obviously present our proposed 2024 operating budget. I think it's important for everyone to know that our whole team is here this morning, except one individual is off, but it's been a real team effort this year in putting the budget together. Everybody stepped up, and of course, we've got Scarlett, who came to us midway through the year. So we have a whole new financial kind of position, and obviously all of us working together is what has got us here today. And certainly appreciate everybody's time that they put in. And I know it's been a long, arduous process, but there was a lot of learning and a lot of things that we had to do on our end, and we've done that. And that's what's bringing us to today. And I'm very proud to introduce Scarlett as our finance director, and acting deputy chief Lillian Murdoch, who've done a tremendous job in compiling everything we've all worked on. And both of them are going to present today, and we'll jump in wherever required. And we're certainly open to questions. And of course, to all of our team, thanks for all your work. It's very much appreciated, and it's much different than we've done in the past. And sometimes change is a good thing. And I know this is the result of working on that. So without further ado, thank you so much for all your time you've both put in as well.
So we have prepared a slideshow presentation, which gives a bit of a visual to this presentation, which I understand will be posted on the website within due time. So first, I'd just like to thank the chief for the opportunity to participate in the presentation of our proposed 2024 operating and capital budgets. Scarlett Isles has been working tirelessly since she joined our team, and most recently on this proposal. And as the chief mentioned, a substantial difference that you will see this year is that we had the involvement of all senior officers, Inspector Brian Pete, Greg Sands, Matt Funnell, and directors and managers Tim Bramham, Sonia Verbeek, and John Bougie, who each provided input into their respective areas. We're really mindful of our duty to ensure we're making the best possible use of taxpayers' dollars. And Scarlett's hard work has ensured that our proposed 2024 budget is fiscally responsible and one which will serve our community and meet our responsibilities under the Police Services Act. Today, we are presenting the 2024 proposed operating and capital budgets for approval. Our operating budget reflects fiscal year estimates for revenues and expenditures associated with our operations, and our capital estimates are reflective of what will be required to maintain the police service. Next slide, please. The Kingston Police mission and vision statements clearly communicate our purpose and provides insight into what we aspire to achieve and become in the future. Our proposed 2024 budget will assist in making our service future ready and will assist us in achieving our vision as an exemplary organization through public confidence, professionalism, accountability, and increased public safety through trusting relationships within our community. Today, we are recommending that the Kingston Police Services Board receive and approve the proposed 2024 operating budget for the Kingston Police and Kingston Police Services Board, resulting in a total net expenditure budget of $47.1 million, reflecting an increase of 6.10% or $2.7 million. This would include contributions from the city, subject to approval, of $60,000 of administrative monetary penalty revenues, and $400,000 city working fund reserve to offset $460,000 of additional budget for policing the post-secondary student mass gatherings. So we have many aspects of our community that make us unique and a vibrant city. Educational institutions such as Queen's University, the Royal Military College, and St. Lawrence College host roughly 35,000 full-time students each year. This student population is not captured in the 2021 census population, which indicates that Kingston has a population of 132,485. We have 9 custodial institutions located in the greater Kingston area, which host specialized programs for high-risk offenders. Providence Care Mental Health Services provide inpatient and outpatient treatment programs. And we are also fortunate to have the Canadian Forces Base Kingston, which employs over 3,000 regular military, over 200 reserve, and over 800 civilian workers. Approximately 18% of our population is over the age of 65. We are home to more than 2,200 seniors over the age of 85. Our elderly can be considered a vulnerable population in terms of their health, as they are more likely to encounter diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia, and can be more vulnerable to being victims of crime. Stats Canada provides a provincial average and a national average in regards to the number of officers to 100,000 population. In 2021, the provincial average was 176 officers per 100,000 population, and the national average was 183 officers per 100,000 population. With a 219 sworn officer complement, this places Kingston Police at 165 officers per 100,000 population, which is a 6.25% decrease from the provincial average, or a 9.8% decrease from the national average. I would just like to take a brief moment to highlight some of our good work thus far in 2023, and it is work that we will continue to do in 2024. So we did host a community fun fair, which attracted thousands of Kingston community members. We attended over 20 community events. We performed 10 level 4 motor vehicle collisions, reconstruction investigations, 4 of which were fatalities. Our emergency response unit have been deployed 50 times to high risk incidents, and our records office has completed and disclosed a high number of record checks and reports. Our court services office has processed just under 2,000 criminal briefs thus far, which is already a 2.65% increase from 2022. Our special services division has seized large amounts of illegal drugs already this year, which has a street value of approximately 1.429376 million. Our criminal investigation unit has received over 2,000 cases assigned for investigation, and our human resources department has hired 57 positions, which consist of both sworn and civilian staff. So despite our successes, there have been key pressures on service delivery, and an increased workload continues to impact our organization. These pressures include legislative requirements such as Bill C-48, the new bail reform legislation. Costs associated with bail breaches and those being granted release for repeat apprehensions significantly affect our budget. Other pressures included increased 911 calls for service, increased mental health calls for service, and increased complexity of policing, such as technological advancements, which lead to the collection and disclosure of digital evidence. Such pressures on service delivery not only impact our budget, but they also create additional stressors, which at times have an effect on the health and well-being of our members. Thanks. While the new bail reform legislation is a much needed addition, as mentioned, there are additional costs downloaded to policing agencies as a result of increased resourcing requirements to process and review charges and attend bail court appearances. To provide a better outline of the costs associated with processing breaches of bail and court orders, this chart depicts the total cost to Kingston Police to bring an individual to bail court. Thus far in 2023, we have processed 368 charges for breach of recognizance and undertaking. The cost estimate would amount to $383,456. This costing does not include additional court appearances for court trials. So this is just one example of the additional legislative requirements that have been placed upon us. Over the past 3 years, there have been a consistent increase in 911 call volume. The increase in 911 call volume from 2021 to 2022 was 6.51%. If we stay on the same trajectory this year, it is projected that we will see an increase of 14.3% in 2023 from 2022. Also, as mentioned, our mental health calls for service have also increased. And if we stay on the same trajectory this year, it is projected that we will see an increase of 14.6% in 2023 from 2022. The Crime Severity Index provides an overall or weighted average of violent crime and nonviolent crime. It tells us if police reported crime was relatively more or less serious than in previous years. Stats Canada found that violent crime nationally rose by 5% in 2022 after a 6% increase in 2021. Kingston's violent crime was lower than this. However, it did rise by 2.5% in 2022 from 2021. Our nonviolent crime showed an increase of 8.5%, and overall we saw a 6.7% increase in our crime severity index. We will continue to work hard to lower our crime severity index and hope this budget will afford us opportunities to focus on efforts of prevention rather than reaction-based measures. We didn't get here overnight, however, believe our strategic plan and budget will support us in where we want to go. Our proposed budget will ensure our resources meet community expectations and will leverage our greatest strength, which is our people. So I'll turn things over to Scarlett, who will continue to speak about our people in terms of our staffing levels.
Hello, everyone. So before getting to the numbers, I briefly wanted to speak to staffing levels. Currently, Kingston Police have an authorized strength of 209 sworn members. In 2019, we were provided approval to hire 10 additional officers to backfill for 10 long-term member absences who are away from work on WSIB. Currently, there are 11 sworn members on long-term absence, 8 of whom are away from work on WSIB, 1 on long-term disability, and 2 on sick leave. This leaves a complement of 208 sworn members on active duty. This does not include members who are at work and not frontline deployable. The civilian complement includes 66 full-time members, 5 of whom are on long-term absence, 2 on WSIB, and 37 part-time members. The overall total complement, including sworn and civilian, is 322 members, with 16 members on long-term absences. Also not included in those numbers are 9 officer secondments, whereby officers participate in provincial initiatives, including several joint force operations where reps are sent to be a part of a unit comprised of officers from the OPP and other regional municipal police services. We do receive funds to offset compensation costs. Next slide. On this slide, the 2024 recommended operating budget is summarized by division and revenue and expenditure type. The operating budget proposal reflects a total budget of $47.1 million as compared to a budget of $44.4 million in 2023, representing a total increase of $2.7 million or 6.10%. The chart on the right shows the net budget percentage by division. As you can see, over 1/3 of the budget is the patrol and comms division, and 26% is the administrative support division, which includes the reception desk, records, court services, court security, training unit, canine unit, to name a few. Next slide, please. To maintain existing services in 2024, there are a number of costs that are essentially uncontrollable. The 2024 proposed operating budget includes a funding increase of $2.4 million or 5.34%, which represents the restatement of the 2023 operating budget to 2024 dollars. The restatement includes adjusting for inflation, the annualizing of new positions added in 2023, capital reserve fund contribution, expected increases for settlement of collective agreements, standard salary contract increases and staffing progressions, and the employer portion of benefit increases. This increase reflects what is needed to maintain core services and ensures the continuation of the core services approved within the 2023 budget. This slide shows the 2024 net new budget requests. Kingston Police are proposing an increase of 367,000 or 0.83%, less than a 1% increase to address several essential service requirements. These recommended increases support implementation of the board's strategic plan, address increased workload and backlog demands, and meet legislative requirements. Offsetting the increases are additional revenues, including an increase of rope funding, a new same-day background check fee, a working fund reserve contribution, and the addition of administrative monetary penalty revenues. The cumulative impact of the 2024 proposed operating budget is 47.1 million or 6.10%. This includes a 5.34% base budget increase to 2024 dollars plus a 0.76%, which encompasses strategic planning initiatives, legislative requirements, essential service requirements, and a catch-up component. I will now pass you back to Inspector Murdoch, who will discuss how this falls within the strategic planning initiatives.
So a budget increase of 6.10% balances a number of competing pressures, including community expectations, delivery of effective and quality service, risk, affordability, and alignment with the Kingston Police Services Board strategic plan. Such an increase will continue to support our action plans to meet key performance indicators of our 5 prioritized strategic objectives, which are 1, reduce the weighted crime rate by 10%, particularly in the downtown core. 2, the people of Kingston, including marginalized and or disadvantaged persons, feel safer and are more satisfied with the Kingston Police. 3, improve member job satisfaction and engagement. 4, improve weighted clearance rate to 45%. And 5, transfer of non-criminal low-risk cases are faster and more frequent. So as mentioned, the 2024 proposed new budget increase of 337,000 or 0.76% represents strategic plan initiatives, legislative requirements, service enhancements, and necessary budget needs. In relation to the Kingston Police 2023 to 2026 strategic plan, this is what the citizens can expect to see as a result of this budget increase. Under our strategic objective, reduce the weighted crime rate by 10%, particularly in the downtown core, we will train senior staff on evidence-based approaches and policing practices to implement within our service, improve the Kingston Police presence in the downtown core, and implement the provincial bail dashboard system to ensure high-risk and repeat violent offenders comply with their bail conditions. Under our prioritized strategic objective, the people of Kingston, including marginalized and or disadvantaged persons, feel safer and are more satisfied with the Kingston Police, we will implement a new recruiting platform with attention to diverse communities. We will improve our social media presence and seek positive engagement opportunities to build trust within the community. We will increase our training to enhance cultural competencies, anti-racism, and diversity for all staff. Our implementation of Next Generation 911 will provide Kingstonians improved emergency services through telecommunications service, which enables routing using GIS data and geoprocessing. Under our prioritized strategic objective, improve member job satisfaction and engagement, we are going to continue to expand our Safeguard program, which will include all frontline supervisors. Safeguard is a psychological screening with a psychologist for members at increased risk for exposure to potentially traumatic stressors in the course of their duties. We will expand our employee wellness initiatives and create an effective employee recognition program. We hope that these and additional measures will assist our organization having healthy officers both physically and mentally. Under our prioritized strategic objective, improve weighted clearance rates to 45%, we will realign staff to reduce property crime offenses. We will ensure compliance with uniform crime reporting requirements and provide oversight to ensure our dispatch to emergency calls for service meet established guidelines. We will ensure we meet new legislative Crown disclosure requirements through civilian staffing. Under our prioritized strategic objective, transfers of non-criminal low-risk cases are faster and more frequent. We will identify and implement alternate response opportunities for non-emergency calls, reducing calls for service. We will further expand the use of Health IM beyond frontline officers. And we will increase the use of special constables to decrease the number of police officers required during the mental health apprehension process.
Thanks, Inspector Murdoch. This slide shows the net budget percentage by the respective revenue and expense category. As the chart depicts, provincial subsidies are 35.94% of revenues, and fees, charges, and other revenues are 64.06%. Salaries, wages, and benefits reflect 84.9% of gross expenditures, while the remaining 15% includes materials, supplies, and fees, contracted services, and transfers to the capital reserve funds. 2024 budgeted revenues of $5.7 million are increasing by a total of $394,000 or 7.44% over the 2023 budget of $5.3 million. The following are contributors to the increase. Sale of photos, maps, and reports or background check revenues are decreasing by $50,000, reflecting actual revenues realized over the past few years. This decrease is fully offset with a new fee for same-day criminal record checks. Provincial funding is decreasing by $139,000 or 6.38% due to the reduction of $137,000 for the court security prisoner transportation grant. Grant funding has continued to decline over the years. Back in 2020, we were receiving around $2.5 million, and in 2024, we are budgeting $2 million, which is a 19% decrease. Expenditure recovery is increasing by $564,000 or 26.32%. Repeat offender patrol enforcement rope funding is increasing by $128,000 to full funding of 2 officers. Ontario's Guns and Gangs provincial weapons funding is increasing by $44,000. As noted earlier, there is a city working fund reserve contribution subject to approval from city of $400,000 to offset costs of policing the post-secondary mass gatherings. There is also an addition of administrative monetary penalty revenues of $60,000. Offsetting the expenditure recovery increase is a decrease related to the removal of the cannabis secondment funding. Total expenditures proposed in the 2024 draft budget of $52.8 million are increasing by $3.1 million or 6.30% over the 2023 approved budget. This category reflects approximately 85% of the total gross expenditures. Benefits are increasing by $498,000 or 5.8%, reflective of increases to statutory deductions and employer-paid benefits such as Canada Pension Plan, employment insurance, OMERS pension, and health and dental benefits. The maximum pensionable earnings under the CPP will increase by 3%, and starting in 2024, a higher second earnings ceiling will be implemented and used to determine second additional CPP contributions. This is impacting the Kingston Police budget by approximately $100,000. An additional $380,000 has been added to the 2024 budget to reflect the annualizing of 4 communications operators and 8 new sworn officer positions approved in 2023. The increase to the 2024 budget represents the remaining compensation costs required to fund these 2023 positions for a full year in 2024. Base salary rates have been incorporated into the 2024 budget estimates in accordance with expected settlements of collective and compensation agreements and other standard salary contract increases. This increase is approximately $1.4 million and includes seniority pay, moving through pay grids, ranks, and updating new hires to first-class rates. Overtime is increasing by $88,000 in 2024, reflective of wage increases and other incremental increases across departments. An additional $25,000 has been added to the court services unit to assist with video and other legislative disclosure requirements and court-mandated transportation. Full-time is increasing by $57,000 to provide additional staffing support to the payroll and finance group. Part-time is increasing in the records unit to address backlog and legislative requirements, and in the court service Services Unit to meet legislated Crown disclosure requirements. It should also be noted that the cost and salary and benefits for the 11 sworn and 5 civilian members away on long-term absences currently impacts the budget by approximately $2.5 million. Total supplies are increasing by 2.8 million. Total supplies and materials are 2.8 million, an increase of 130,000 or 4.83% over the 2023 budget. Uniforms and protective clothing are decreasing by 119,000 due to the realignment of sworn officer protective gear to capital. Gas and diesel fuels are increasing by 54,000 or 12.33%. This reflects estimated market fuel rates and no increases to the volume of liters budgeted. Software is increasing by 138,000. This includes the budgeted software costs in IT and is primarily the realignment of budget from contracted services to the software account to ensure accurate cost tracking. Inflationary increases to existing software license and maintenance agreements are also included. Advertising and marketing is increasing by 35,000. This relates to initiatives outlined in the strategic plan and includes such things as investment in a new recruiting platform, improving our social media presence, positive engagements and events to build trust with the community, among others. 15K has been added to the Kingston Police Services budget for recruitment, reflecting ongoing efforts of position recruitments managed by the board. The increase to education and training reflects the return to in-person training, additional mandated training, and the onboarding of new employees and the corresponding training required. Contracted services are increasing by 478,000 or 10.9% over 2023. Specific changes to this category are noted. Professional services are increasing by 121,000. This includes legal costs related to WSIB and other labor issues, additional funding for mental health assessments and other employee health initiatives as outlined in the board's strategic plan. There is an increase of 20K for consultants to support the board. 451,000 increase to the investigative services account. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, this includes 460K of additional funds to offset the cost of policing post-secondary events. Repairs and maintenance are increasing to offset the cost of camera and radio repairs. Also included in this category was a reduction related to the annual mobile radio maintenance contract, which has been realigned to the capital budget. Contribution to reserves is increasing by 8.2K or 3% and reflects the incremental increase to the Police Capital Reserve Fund, which is used to fund police capital budget requests. Staff regularly monitor other police service budget rate increases through member associations and other professional networks. Based on current information and a survey of other police service agencies, the average 2024 budget increase is 7.83%. As you can see, Kingston Police are on the lower end of increases and below the average. The operating forecasts reflect projected increases of 6.32%, 5.22%, and 5.17% respectively for the years 2025 to 2027. Forecast for 2026, 27, and 28 operating budgets incorporated costs of operating plans, estimates for inflation, service enhancements, and projected growth pressures. The forecast assumes 2 to 3% inflation, no change in provincial grants, the addition of 5 sworn officers in each of years 2025 to 2027, the addition of 2 IT analysts in 2025, and no other new program initiatives. For additional details on the operating forecast, please refer to appendices at the end of the report, which provide a breakdown of all 4 years by the respective division or unit, further broken down by the program level, and further broken down by the revenue expenditure category. A capital budget in the amount of $2.4 million is being recommended for approval. The 2024 recommended capital budget is primarily funded by the Police Capital Reserve Fund. The 2023 approved capital budget was $2.3 million. The increase to cost for fleet are associated with the increased cost of vehicles and is reflective of supply chain issues in the automotive industry, which has driven the cost of supplies above inflationary levels. It should also be noted that vehicles, when sold when sold through an auction, any of the generated proceeds are deposited to the Police Capital Reserve Fund to fund future capital needs. To maintain information technology and related infrastructure, 1.1 million of capital funding has been requested. Some highlights include server replacements and server room enhancements, full Microsoft 365 rollout, body-worn camera pilot, and Genetec camera and access control upgrades. Noted on this slide is the 15-year forecasted capital plan. The capital plan includes projected estimates for routine asset management costs incurred annually to maintain and replace assets. In addition to regular annual asset management, the 15-year capital plan includes investment in the rollout of body-worn cameras. Details of the 15-year capital plan estimates are presented in Appendix D of the report. To wrap up the presentation, this slide includes some nice pictures taken over the year. Thank you for listening today, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Scarlett. Any questions from the board? Go ahead, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the presentation. Over the last few months, I've been involved in a lot of budget discussions at the city. This is by far the most difficult budget year that I have ever seen. Inflation impacts everything. So municipal services are not exempt from those inflationary pressures. And I'm just wondering if you could highlight for me where the biggest impacts you've seen in your budget in terms of where those inflationary pressures are showing up in the police budget.
I can answer this question if the chief wants to jump in after, or any of the inspectors, they can. But I would say definitely on the IT front. So any of the software contracts, especially around anything to do with cybersecurity. Fleet is another really big one.
We're also a lot of our equipment. So supply chain issues, the type of equipment we're requiring, everybody's fighting for the same equipment in policing. So we've seen an exorbitant cost increase in the costs of equipment, and then even the ability to get them. And as Scarlett discussed there, with fleet, where we're often waiting over a year to get a vehicle. And of course, those costs have really, so there, it kind of, it's almost all encompassing, as I know you've had a lot of, as we all sit and kind of fight through the inflationary things, but certainly fleet and equipment and all of those things have really impacted us. And we're starting to see it right now. So going to be difficult for sure.
Second question. So I saw your projections out for the next few years. So earlier this month, we were talking at the city about our population projections. And, you know, certainly what we're forecasting over the next few years is pretty rapid population growth for Kingston. So I'm just interested to know, in the budget projections that we're looking at, is the goal to increase the number of officers to keep that number of officers per 100,000 more or less in the same ballpark that it is now? And is that something that's kind of going into our financial planning?
Yeah, certainly for us, that's what, you know, obviously projecting growth, that's what we're doing as well. And we understand, you know, that it's very tough if one year you need 25 officers and the next year you don't need any. So what we've done is kind of a balanced approach where we've looked at over the past years, and I know sometimes they're not a great representation of what's happening, but in this particular case, what we've kind of, I think, conservatively estimated that if we were to add 5 in each year, we know that's an extra 15 officers by 2027, which I think at the end of the day would provide us the opportunity for growth. Obviously, we are with our strategic plan working on wellness objectives that keep people at work. And if we can keep our people physically and mentally healthy, and we can continually work with improving or at least increasing, but at a moderate pace, I guess, would be when you're adding to the complement, and when we're looking at certain things like body worn cameras, and we've already forecasted what we may need staffing wise in there. So we've kind of look at it globally because there's a lot more than just the frontline officers. As we all know, there's a lot of support staff in behind it. So we need to be able to support the officers out there. But I think, barring that we see the population double in a year, then we'd all be pulling our hair out probably, and it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, but being prepared. And I think this provides us a little bit of flexibility that if we had to go back to council and say, you know what, we estimated 5, but we need 7, is there an appetite to get another couple versus we need 20, and now we're asking for 20. So I think we're doing I think we're trying to be realistic and work with what we have in our hands today.
Okay with that? Answer? Yep. Christian, do you have any questions?
I appreciate the detail and transparency that you bring to the budget. I appreciate the way you articulate the value added of the increases here. I also think it's important that the way you broke out some of the costs that the police service has to absorb, that ultimately politicians at the federal level have made, and that have significant impacts on the community. Two, I guess, minor comments on the way you framed it. My understanding is that Kingston has the highest proportion of seniors of any municipality in the country. And I gather that Kingston also has the highest proportion of former convicts on a per capita basis in the country. So it adds to the case that you're making that Kingston is I guess every community is unique in their own ways, but that Kingston is unique in a number of ways that inherently drives some of the demand. And I think that is reflected in the calls for service, I suspect, as you had presented them. So thank you for the very detailed work.
Very good. Thank you. So I'm going to ask that we have a motion to allow this budget to be able to go to the city council, and this is what we prepared, and that's what they're going to go. So first or seconder? Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Very good.
Can I make one more comment
Sure.
before we vote?
Yep.
I just wanted to recognize that we're above the target of what we were hoping for. However, I do want to recognize the significant cost pressures that I am seeing with our police services, and also the significant amount of work that I know has happened at a staff level to bring us down to this point. We know that the draft number we were looking at our budget just a few months ago was significantly higher. So I just want to say thank you to the work for everybody in this room of what was accomplished to bring us down to this point. I do believe that with this police budget that we can fit it within the overall parameters of the city budget. And of course, that's the commitment that I've made to the community, that that we will have one of the lowest property tax increases of any large city in Ontario. And so a lot of the work that's been done here in this room is helping us to get to that point. So thank you for that.
Christian, go ahead.
I'd be interested to hear whether you see any opportunities for the province to assist, not necessarily through financial matters, but whether there are other opportunities here that have emerged in your budget discussions where there are economies of scale that ultimately we cannot resolve, but where provincial action might be able to help us.
Yeah, certainly. And this is something that we discuss quite frequently. And, when we look at, one example is our records management system, where we in Kingston use Versaterm. And, if you go to our neighboring agencies, they're all using Optic and Niche. And, where we have one form of record management system in the province, if we had that, we would have the ability, I think, to share that cost globally across the province with all the police services, where we all kind of operate in silos, where we have all of the same equipment, all of the same software. We have it all within our four walls. There's certainly opportunities for us to expand that into a shared and centralized area. And I know that there's discussions with the province on this, but that would certainly see respective decreases of police boards asking councils for money, because if it was provincially mandated, we'd have an opportunity maybe to share in the costs and reduce our costs. So we certainly look at that. We've talked about centralized recruiting right now. Every police service in Ontario is sharing costs related to recruiting. We're all chasing the same people. And there's never been a time like this. And I've been in policing for 31 years. I've never seen it the way it is right now, where officers have the ability to freely move amongst departments. It doesn't matter where you are in Canada. And that's not a bad thing, but it certainly makes it challenging to keep staffing adequate. But on the other side of it, having some form of provincial, there'd be a lot of work to go through there, but a provincial policing model, not unlike some other provinces have, where the officers all come out and they're trained, and it's something that's done, and then they're hired. Right now, we hire people first, and then we send them to training. So there's an opportunity that we could get people who are certified. Hey, I'm licensed to be a police officer, and then we can start working on that. So when we look at that, we already work collaboratively through the purchasing group in relation to fleet and things like that. So we try and capitalize on every opportunity, but there's a lot more where we can go. And it's just a matter of getting everybody together and helping the province steps up with us as well.
Chief, do you see an opportunity for you perhaps to coordinate with the board through the chair to articulate some of those matters with other chiefs and with other boards to ensure we bring that to the appropriate political attention at Queen's Park for their action?
Yeah, certainly. And that's something we can do through the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, and, bringing that forward. And I know they have a lot of collaborations on the go. And, certainly one that we've just got, a great example would be like NG 911, where we're all mandated to bring it in. We've seen, obviously, the government has stepped in to provide assistance to every community for that. So the template's there, and we know that there's the ability there. And I think it's just a matter of keeping it moving forward. And we'd be happy to bring that forward through our OACP contacts.
And maybe we can coordinate with the chair and with the board to make sure that the boards bring the appropriate attention to this matter from their perspective.
Okay, very good. So I think we're done here for today. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. First or seconder, thank you. All in favor? Thank you for your presentation. It was very good. And thanks for taking the time to make this work. Okay.